And there was a moment, I think specifically, I had watched Manila Luzon do MacArthur Park on Drag Race, and I was like, oh my God, I need to do this. Once I realized that the show wasn't an accurate representation of what drag is, it encouraged me to explore it more. Hi, my name is Helena. I'm 21 years old. I am a student at U of T and a waitress by day, and by night, I'm a drag queen. I guess I came up with Twinkie because I'm very short. I have a lot of very tall family members, and I'm the shortest one. And I think that, you know, there's kind of like the term for a short gay man that's like twink. So I guess it's kind of, that's where I got it from. I started doing drag in October 2018, so that would be a bit over a year. As a kid, I did gymnastics, I did dance, piano, singing, taught myself guitar, so I've always been involved in performance, and I am a theater major. So I think that when I discovered drag, I realized that it was a combination of everything that I love. A lot of people don't necessarily understand, one, what drag is, but two, that there are cis women and gender non-conforming people other than cis men that are doing drag. So it's kind of like you have to explain. So a lot of the people that I am currently hanging out with are within the drag scene. Because of that, like, you don't really need to explain to them. They kind of, well, I mean, even then, there are people that you kind of need to explain, you know, what you do to, because they don't necessarily get it, because they don't see it on TV. They don't see it represented as much as, you know, the cis male who does drag. I'm somebody that I think is okay with answering questions if people have questions, because I understand I am confusing to a lot of people because it isn't represented on TV or in other forms of media. With family, I think it's been a learning opportunity for sure. When I had initially told them that I wanted to become a drag queen, I think that there was some hesitance, just a misunderstanding of what drag is.
I would say that I love the idea that she's combining art and fashion and makeup and performance. She has the ability to take on a different persona. Don't we all wish we could do that? You know, try to be someone else and explore different parts of our personality. So I would say that I was always supportive of it. I'm still supportive of it. And I wish it was a bigger community. I wish there was more support for it. It's still, I think, pretty niche in Toronto, even though it's probably the biggest in Canada. Yeah, I hope it continues and gets even more popular because she loves it. So, you know, whatever makes her happy, and that's what's important. I think I always worry because she's my child, you know, performing late at night. You know, I'm not keen on that. I know that's part of it, but I would like it to be maybe in a better area.
There was definitely concern over safety, over what I was doing, and because I come from a feminist background, and I think there was an idea like, okay, well, is this feminist? You're hanging out with guys that dress up as women. Is that okay? Like, is that offensive? I saw it as inherently feminist because it's like I'm taking the power back from gender roles. I portray myself the way that I want to, not because a man wants me to portray myself as this or the society wants me to portray myself as this. It's ownership and, you know, I don't know, maybe I see that as a feminist thing.
Yeah, it could be. And I guess because I'm a certain generation of feminists and my mother was a certain generation, we have different evolutions of stuff, so no emphasis on beauty pageantry or any of that stuff. So because this is grandma's words, would detract from your accomplishments. So, but that's kind of ridiculous because you should do whatever you want. That's the whole idea, right?
Yeah, because feminism is about choice.
There is an element there, though, that the hyper-femininity becomes a standard that is really hard to achieve for most women. And all women should be considered beautiful, whether they have makeup on or not.
I won't say they've completely understood, but they're learning through me and through somewhat RuPaul's Drag Race and my friends that, you know, we're not just these sketchy individuals, like the outcasts of society, were everyday people. There's certain things that I think I've seen as support from my family, like my dad picking me up from gigs so I don't have to take an Uber or the subway in drag, which is I appreciate because it can be dangerous. Or my mom has come to a couple of my shows. So I think that even though it's not full support and it's not a full understanding, I think that it's a step in the right direction. And that's, I'm lucky for sure, because I know a lot of people where their families have found out they do drag and they've abandoned them or they've kicked them out of the house. So I think that, yeah, I'm lucky for sure.
For me, it really comes down to like entertainment. I'm an entertainer, I always have been. That's like what I'm on this earth to do. I like the creative expression part of it and turning looks and stuff like that, but when I get on a stage and like my audience is here and I'm meeting these people and have that connection with them, it's just like magical and so much fun. When I started drag, RuPaul's Drag Race was a thing, but it wasn't on VH1 yet, it wasn't on Netflix yet. And I think that was a huge game changer. Now there are drag brunches everywhere, there are drag story times everywhere, like there's a real push to integrate drag into the mainstream culture, which again, when I started, that was just starting, but it's definitely a thing now. So the biggest, I would say, hub for drag in Toronto is Church Street, the gay village. It's historically been the hub for queer people in the city since there's been a hub for queer people in the city. That's where most of the venues are for drag. You've got Woody's, it's the oldest gay bar in Toronto. Cruise and Tangos has drag 7 nights a week.
I've been to Church Street during the day and it's not really a big deal, but I think at night, I do sense like it just doesn't feel the most safe. I was walking down the street one day and I was going to an open stage or whatever, and somebody asked me for money and I'm like, I don't have any change, which I didn't, and he called me a fag. And I was like, I was kind of taken aback. I was like, oh, me? Yeah, that was weird. I think really anything, any nightlife scene, whenever there's drugs and alcohol involved, I think that I won't say it encourages people to be unsafe, but like, I think there definitely is that concern. Like, I've had somebody put something in my drink. I don't know what gay men deal with in the village. I can't assume that it would be too different, but yeah, it's not the most safe. And I wish that there were more safe environments for people to convene and enjoy local drag and, you know, different art forms and things like that. But I don't think it will for a little while.
There's also a pretty heavy drag presence on Queen West, around Queen and Dufferin. They call it Queer West, venues like the Beaver and the Gladstone. So you have your two main hubs, but it's starting to disperse as well. But the majority of it is on Church Street, really. You've got places like O'Grady's, Glad Day Bookshop. It's the oldest queer bookstore on the continent. I
think that it's a really cool environment because it's not really the nightclub environment. You know, it's a bookstore. They do have alcohol, but it's mostly a sober space. They've been pretty good at booking alternative queens and performers and kings and really just like more of a diverse audience in the village.
A big part of this industry and working within it is networking, and you can learn a lot from other performers.
It's all about who you know. You could be the most talented performer, but if you're not networking, you won't be booked.
You can also get a lot of opportunities from other performers, and it's just really important to be integrated in your scene. I think that is the biggest one. Whether you go out in drag or not, like, you really have to know everybody and be able to work well with everybody.
I think that I started doing drag at a pretty good time because there was already this kind of like mini revolution with some of the cisgender women that did drag. There's like comments that people make, you know, like, oh, you're not a real drag queen, or even if it's a joke, it's still invalidating for sure. There's certain competitions that don't allow cisgender women or trans men, or really anybody that's not a cisgender man, to compete in the village, and I won't name names because maybe I'm still available for bookings, so I don't want to say what club it's at, but there have been problems with that, but really people don't care. That's the thing that I've figured out. They don't care about the ramifications or who's being discriminated against, because they're looking out for their own career. So I guess other than that, I think that that's most of the discrimination I faced. I think it's subtly, like you see a lineup and there's maybe, if that, there's one cisgender woman or somebody that isn't a cis male. And it's subtle things like that that make you feel not welcome. And me also seeing that a lot of the people that are either cisgender women or an AFAB, gender not conforming person, a lot of them are stopping doing drag.
So right now, I would say in Toronto, the majority of the performers are what the mainstream's idea of a drag queen would be. Somebody who looks like me, presents like me, who dresses up in female drag to perform. AFAB queens or bio queens are not as common, but are becoming more common. It's all part of this influx of new drag performers. We're seeing more trans performers, we're seeing more AFAB queens, we're seeing more non-binary performers, we're seeing a lot of different kinds of drag. So I think the fight to get them included is gonna be like a slow and steady one, but it's happening and I can see the work and I can see the progress and it's exciting.
I think that there's a lot of questions that people have. They try and sometimes I can tell, you know, when I go on stage, you see people looking, you can almost see that they're trying to figure out what I am, which I kind of find fun. The little bit, like a bit of mystery behind it. That's, I think overall, people have been pretty receptive to that. I think initially they're like, oh, what is this? But then they, you know, I've had people say, I didn't know that women could be drag queens until I saw you, and this was like just in awe. People, like, it's, I'm not saying that I'm anything special, but I guess I'm kind of introducing people to a new form of drag and to new ideas.
Sour candy on the table, lazy afternoons in your sweatpants, watching